All right. Hello and welcome to the Vertical Bar Podcast. I'm your co-host Jared, joining you from Orlando, Florida, as we dive into the latest innovations, tech trends, and just talk about tech, the industry at large. And I'm here with
Your other co host, Marcus. Together, we're on a mission to explore, share, and demystify the world of technology.
from our own company, Vertical Bar Media, to the wider tech universe. We're here to delve into all things digital. But enough about us. What's on the topic list for today, Marcus?
All right, this week in tech, we have Netflix is turning into a cable TV service. This was reported by TheVerge.com.
Oh, we need the meme from Star Wars. It's when Anakin turns to the dark side. No, you were the chosen one.
They're betraying themselves. That's so funny.
Yeah,
And
and
for
just
our se-
joining on the tragedy, Microsoft is announcing 1,900 jobs at across their gaming division, as Mike Ybarra leaves the company and the studio survival game has been canceled. So that's really interesting to hear.
yeah,
I haven't expected it,
surprise,
but
surprise, right?
brutal. This
I
year
know.
so far, in the month of January, has had half as many layoffs as the entire last year.
It's crazy. And I supported this acquisition
Yeah.
wholeheartedly. I thought that
Well,
everybody was in good
well,
hands joining Microsoft, but I know it's not that shocking of an event, but still, I hate that it's
we'll
happening.
get more into this later, but
Of
honestly,
course, of
like it should
course.
be illegal to use people's jobs and livelihood as like a bargaining chip for stock price. Like that's
Yeah,
it. That should be illegal.
it's a bitchin' ass thing to
Um,
do, for sure.
but what's not illegal is probably the Palworld game that just came out.
Yeah, apparently this is the game that was developed and distributed by a company called Pocket Pair, and it's heavily influenced by Pokemon. Possibly, I haven't played it yet, but the screenshots look really good. People have described it as Pokemon with guns, and it looks like they are currently being investigated for sort of copying the Pokemon Company's, uh, I guess, IP. So we'll get into that later on as well.
Yeah, well, let's without forgetting to thank our AI overlords for scripting this intro, let's dive in. What's going on with Netflix turning into cable?
Yeah, so Netflix, it looks like has um, gone through a deal, and I don't know if it's been approved or not, but there's a deal going through where they are acquiring WWE Monday Night Raw, which is obviously going to be a, a wrestling program. It's their first time doing this. Netflix is usually more so focused on original content, not really bringing in things that have already been done and are currently I guess currently already a thing. I think they kind of started this whenever they first became a company and they first launched their streaming service. They were sort of buying licenses for things that were already done, and then they started doing original content. So they're sort of like shifting back to this whole um, like a cable type service. So we'll see how that goes. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, and this is kind of an interesting trend, right? So Netflix started shipping DVDs
Hmm.
and then they moved on to streaming services.
Right.
Obviously, none of their own content until they had their own streaming service. And then it's kind of transitioning back to this. It just kind of comes with as the price for all these, as the price for all of the streaming services rise, all the competition is increasing. Um, it's interesting to see what demand's going to turn into because I don't know that people want to have Hulu, Netflix, Disney,
Right.
Paramount,
Apple.
HBO, got YouTube Plus or YouTube Premium or whatever it is, YouTube TV because they have a separate thing from their YouTube Premium that does like movies and TV shows and stuff. And
Right.
it's really interesting because it's such an expensive endeavor to do video on demand content.
It
Um,
is.
just the infrastructure that's required, the data that's required, it's everything. And the price is just going up, and I just don't understand where it's going to go. I don't like this reconsolidation of the market because there's
Right.
only like four broadcast companies in the United States, like NBC, ABC, Fox, and CNN isn't even their own. They're owned by somebody else. Um, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, it seems like Netflix is always leading the charge. They were the first ones to really offer like a subscription price. This is what a lot of other industries adapt. You got music industries, software companies have adopted this whole subscription pricing strategy, and Netflix is the one that led the charge. And then it seems like whenever Netflix was transitioning over from licensed content over to original programming, it seems like everybody else started pumping out their original programming, right? And now Netflix is switching back to the licensed content. So it just seems like they're always ahead of the curve. They have enough data to sort of know like where the market is heading, and it'll be interesting to see if anybody else follows suits. Like I know Netflix has acquired um, some rights for some like I think DC films are currently on Netflix. Like Zack
Well,
Snyder's
yeah,
universe.
actually, there's a lot of History Channel content. I know a show called Forge and Fire, which is all about like the blacksmithing competition,
Mhm.
is on Netflix, and I know they have some other content there from the History Channel, which is it's kind of interesting because you always looked back at the TV and like you thought that those were the giants, like Discovery
Right,
Channel and like Nickelodeon and stuff.
exactly.
But until Netflix
Viacom.
and Amazon came along, like we didn't really see what giants in content creation could actually look like, or like what
Exactly.
YouTube is. Um, and yeah, it's really interesting. I really don't know where this is gonna go. I because there just seems to be so much infighting over who has license to display what content, right?
I know.
And like it used to be in TV that like, okay, Disney Channel never wanted to show their anything on Comedy Central because
Right.
Comedy Central had like porn, softcore porn stuff on it, right? But like that's not the case anymore.
Yeah, it's like Disney definitely wants to make sure that the content that they have is definitely for family members only, which is interesting why like, Disney now owns FX after 20th Century Fox had to sell or was acquired by Disney. And now FX, which is primarily on Hulu, I think recently has been merging into Disney Plus. So I don't even is Hulu still a thing? Because I
Yeah, I
recently
mean, I still have a subscription to Hulu, and I have a subscription through Hulu through Apple services, right? So it's like in
through Apple what?
combination with that, and like, oh man, that's a whole nother nest of problems, right? Because
Right.
like Xfinity or Comcast, formerly Comcast, was offering a deal where you
Hmm.
signed up for Comcast and you got Hulu or HBO or something like this. However, the login was tied through Xfinity. So like you never actually had access to Hulu by itself. You
Hmm.
had to go through the Xfinity apps or the Xfinity services to
Gotcha.
access Hulu. And I know that was a problem for my dad because he couldn't put Hulu on his TV. Like he couldn't log
Right.
into it because they didn't accept his Comcast information. Whereas,
Right.
yeah,
And Xfinity isn't really offered on that many like you can't really get I don't know if you can get Xfinity on like Roku, or like Fire Stick or TV and stuff like that. So it is sort of like a
yeah. And
it
that's
is sort
actually
of
one
like a
of the more
boundary, you know?
surprising things is how prevalent things like Roku are. Like not even
Yeah.
just like Roku boxes, but TVs that have Roku built into them. Every Airbnb that I've stayed at has like a Roku box on it.
They got
Like
really
that's just
big.
the de facto standard in like leisure content marketing.
Roku was ahead of the game. Roku started. I remember my friend had a Roku TV, or it was a box. I don't think they had necessarily TVs back then, but back in like 2009 when he went to college at UGA, and I remember like it was like the first or second generation, and that's primarily how we would watch TV. They were one of the first, companies them and Netflix were some of the first companies to move people from cable TV subscriptions over to streaming services, and it was super cheap back then. I think Netflix was like what, $7 back then. So it's interesting to see like who's played a part in this transition. But and Roku even competes with Amazon. Not many companies compete with Amazon, and Roku definitely they just definitely deserve some credit for how things are I guess, currently positioned.
Yeah, it's kind of strange at how much of the conversation they get left out on.
They really do. No one really talks about Roku, but they're a
But
major player
like,
in
if you
this.
if you go to like Brazil or Argentina or like any
Hmm.
South American country, it is completely dominated by Roku.
Yeah,
Every
Roku's
TV,
hot.
every TV. Um, yeah, and I wonder what this means for the rise of piracy. I mean, we see an uptick in piracy and people talking about
I never
piracy,
follow
and like,
that. I
yeah,
never
like,
follow the news around piracy. I only hear that like, oh, this show is like one of the most pirated shows in piracy right now. I know. I think the most recent one was The Last of Us. I think that has the it used to be Game of Thrones and I think
oh
Walking
yeah.
Dead and
No,
Breaking
that's
Bad. But
honestly how I define on whether or not I want to actually view content is if it's
hmm
on IP torrents and like
hmm
it's rising and people are downloading it and whatever. I mean, sometimes people want to download, a one-star rated movie because it's so terrible,
yeah,
right? But for the most part, like
just to
you
see if
kind of
it's terrible.
see in the torrents of what people are willing to upload and what people are willing to download,
Right.
on like what content is actually good, right? It's regardless of like the news surrounding it.
Exactly.
I think the torrents are a really good indicator of like what people like for content.
Yeah, no, it's definitely interesting. You have a lot of movies and TV shows that sort of become big due to torrenting, sometimes streaming, and they never did good at the box office and they never did good with the critics. So it's cool to see how that's like a separate set of data
Well,
that's very important.
I think there's so many barriers to entry for content now. Like,
Hmm.
or not now. There's so many streams that where the barriers are reduced, like YouTube, right? Like, there's almost no barriers. There is no barrier except for having a Gmail, a Google account to be able to post a video to YouTube. Like, that is literally it. You have to have a camera to record it, an internet, and a computer to upload it, right? But like, that's literally it. You can even do it on a phone, like if you
Right,
have mobile connection, like you can,
exactly.
and like the content that people are creating with iPhones now is like movie cinematic quality. So the barriers to entry are so small, but there's all these streaming services that still kind of have their barriers. They're still
Hmm.
kind of holding on to the dead, like the dead corpse that is cable TV, where like it's just so weird to me. Like, it used to be like you purchased from the government, from the FCC, the Federal Communications Commission, and you
Hmm.
purchased a license to be able to. Okay. So it used to be that the FCC, like it used to be that a company would purchase a license from the FCC to be able to broadcast on a
Hmm.
certain wavelength of the spectrum,
Hmm.
right? Like channel 44 was, you purchased that right to broadcast on it. And that's kind of like generated this monolith of the cable giants
Monolith. Mhm.
that the whole paradigm just needs to be broken. Like, we it's not the same anymore. Like, the barriers to access content are so little. Like, you
It was
don't.
constantly shifting. Like it's annoying to have to like, okay, I got this movie on this channel or on this service, right? But then 5 months later, it's gone, and now you have to buy another subscription. And it's like it's hard to keep up because you don't ever know where something is unless it's original content. And it can be kind of annoying to have to shift back and forth. I feel
Oh
like
yeah,
every month,
like Netflix is particularly egregious about this, but like
yeah,
they actually have banners on all their content now that says, "Hey, this is new," or "Hey, this is leaving soon." It's like, man,
leaving soon.
yeah.
It's
Well,
like it
let's
was. Why do you want
go
to
ahead.
add? It was like before, how you couldn't watch anything when you wanted back in the day on cable TV because you had to basically scroll through the TV guide to be able to find
Well, I mean,
out when something
you
was
could only
playing.
watch
And it's
one
like,
channel, right? And you couldn't record
right,
it. Like, it was 9 p.m.
unless you
You were
had
watching The Daily Show or something. You weren't watching, a History Channel. But that's no longer the case. Like, with a video on demand, like you can pick that episode that you wanted to watch at any point in time and any
right.
point and watch it. Um,
Do you know what I always wanted to try back in the day? Do you ever hear about Microsoft XP Windows Media Center Edition?
Oh yeah, I was all
Where
into that.
you
Yeah,
did, so you were
I
able
actually
to
had a
record on your
TV.
computer.
Yeah, I actually had a TV tuner card. I still do.
That's
I
so cool.
don't do anything with it, but like you plugged in the coaxial cable to the back of your computer and you could tune
Hmm.
it. You can still
It was
do that with
basically
like
like
HD
DVR.
channels because there's still a lot of broadcast stuff going out.
It's so cool.
Not
I
everybody's on
always
that apparently.
I researched the shit out of
Oh
that
yeah.
feature, and I never got to do it. But it was so ahead of its time to be able to
Well,
watch what you want and then record it.
speaking of Microsoft being ahead of its
Topic
time,
number two is
let's
our
go
second
over to
topic.
our next topic.
Yes.
Microsoft cuts 1,900 jobs at Activision, Blizzard, and Xbox, with Blizzard president Mike Ybarra leaving the company. And it's kind of funny because Mike Ybarra came from Xbox and he left Microsoft to go be with Blizzard, but now he's leaving as soon as he gets back to Microsoft. It's like your girlfriend got with your ex, and now you can't,
Yeah.
you don't want to be with either of them.
It's interesting. It seems like Apple is the only tech company. I'm not saying this is, I'm not saying this is better or worse, but obviously, not cutting people from their jobs is better. But I'm not saying which company is better, but I'm just saying Apple hasn't laid off anybody at all in the past 2 years. And I just don't know why some of these other companies, can't avoid that. I do know Apple isn't really doing any mergers or like acquiring anyone big. They may be acquiring smaller companies for some of their products, like for the Vision Pro and things like that, but or maybe for AI, for a future release, to compete with Microsoft and Google. But it just sucks that layoffs have been so prominent in the tech industry over the past couple of years. I only
Yeah,
just started to really
honestly,
follow the business aspect of tech, probably since
yeah.
2022. So I don't
Well,
know how it was before.
for the uninitiated, companies large that have the ability to lay off 1,900 people out of a 22,
8%
yeah,
of their video
8% of
game,
their, like that
their workforce
is
for
absurd,
yeah.
like for anybody to kind of wrap their head around on. And like that's not a decision that somebody's like, oh, this guy's not working good, this guy's not working good. Like that's not that kind of decision of what a layoff is. A layoff is
Mhm.
purely that the money is the company is using people's positions and
Salaries.
jobs as
Hmm.
leverage to increase or decrease their stock price. Um, Generally to increase it. And now that Microsoft is a like $3 trillion company, is the largest company in the world.
Trying
Like,
to keep that number one spot.
well, that's how they got the number one spot. They laid off all these people.
What?
Like,
So investors or people that buy stock think that layoffs are good and they essentially buy more, making them more valuable when they hear like chatter of layoffs coming and
yeah,
when they actually are implemented.
yeah, essentially. I mean,
Sucks.
look at it this way, like the company was making, X amount of money with this many employees. We've reduced pay for 1,900 people, so we've just increased our money, like our revenue, like so people buy into that. There's a lot of other reasons, like, hey, we announced layoff, the stock price is going to fall maybe a little bit. Well, the it's what typically happens is people buy the dip. So as soon as the stock price start going down, they buy it and it goes right back up to the moon. Um, and that's generally a lot of like algorithmic trading. It just kind of happens. Like as soon as price starts falling, price go back up because of these bots that are just buying stuff. And it's really, really strange. I don't know how it can be fixed because when
Hmm.
you're talking about a company that has a division, just a part of like one of the three pillars of Microsoft, right? Cloud, gaming, and like computing.
Hmm.
They just their gaming division had a 2,200 or 22,000 people workforce. Like,
Right.
wow.
That's a
That's
big ass company.
Yeah, like the biggest places that we've been, in like venues are probably like no more than 100,000 people. Like that's literally like a fifth of the people in like the largest stadium you've probably been to working on gaming for that one company. And man, it's so mind-numbingly hard to look at those kind of like statistics and numbers and like actually mean anything from it. But like those are all people. They all had jobs. They all have families. Um, you know, it sucks.
Do you think AI plays a part in this? Do you think because Microsoft has pushed AI so much, do you think a lot of
No,
the
a lot of what
okay,
happens is
because
at
that's what
least
people are going to think. So I want to make
at
sure
least
that
something that I know specifically about Blizzard, but most companies in general, they go through cycles, kind of like how our economy goes, right? Some years the economy's good, some years the economy's bad. So generally companies will kind of hedge their bets and they'll say, hey, look, workforce is cheap right now. We can hire a bunch of people and like try to do some stuff to make some money. If in 2 years it doesn't work out, we cut them all, right? And I know Blizzard was really structured around this. Like they would have consecutive conservative years where they wouldn't hire, they wouldn't spend extra money, they just do everything with their workforce in. And then they'd have more liberal years where like, okay, well, let's spend a bunch of money on hiring developers and doing other projects. Money's kind of flowing. But we're kind of seeing that kind of mirrors the economy more or less than the layoffs are indicating the economy, right? Like it's kind of a reactionary principle for these companies and it does help them grow, but it also just like leverages people's livelihoods and that's disgusting.
yeah, it is. It's horrible.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get
um
some more information
i
about
i
this.
do hope that Microsoft is able to bring Blizzard back because Blizzard has ruined their reputation. They make fuck tons of money, like that's not the point. They make money, but they've absolutely ruined their reputation. I mean, Overwatch 2, disaster. Lots of money, but it's still an unequivocal disaster compared to like Counter-Strike 2 right now. Like Counter-Strike 2 is one of the top played multiplayer games in existence. Like Call of Duty is definitely there, but that like yearly cycle, like people just burnt out on that kind of stuff and like I think it feeds into that toxic communities and man, there's just so much that goes in so much about this. It's like you can't fix any of it. Like it's just a fucking cesspool, honestly.
Yeah, no, it's horrible. And I do want to read something from the PC Gamer article in which we are talking about, which we sourced for this topic. It says that the layoff of nearly 2,000 people represents the dark side of large acquisitions like this one. Often major restructuring follows. While the memo points towards the Activision Blizzard, ZeniMax, and the Xbox teams, it's not clear how the layoffs have been weighted across Microsoft's gaming developers. Along with many of those who were working on Blizzard's survival game, we've seen Overwatch, Call of Duty, and ZeniMax developers say they've been laid off. So it says that Phil Spencer, who I believe is the CEO of,
No, he's
what
the
was it?
president of Xbox Gaming or
There
something.
you go. Well, Spencer says that the company will provide our full support to those who have been impacted during the transition, including severance benefits informed by local employment laws. So at least the
Yeah.
people who are laid off will be given
Yeah, I think
some
I mean
money, and
they've definitely like they've given these guys some parachutes. They've done
that's
that.
good.
I can't say that, it's absolutely atrocious, but
hmm
man, it's brutal. But let's kind of take that transition, like a company that's laying off 2,000, nearly 2,000 employees, and compare that to the runaway success of
hmm
Palworld right now.
Palworld,
Yeah, so let's
which has
go
been
on to
all over social media for the past week. It's like all there's been some news in the movie industry, but Palworld has been taking up a lot of um of the things that I've been seeing. This is also topic three. This will be our last topic before we go into some of our business success. But yeah, Palworld. What are your thoughts on this?
so first of all, the article that we put in the document today is that the Pokemon Company is investigating Pokemon with guns, satire
Yes,
Palworld.
Palworld.
I don't necessarily think that's entirely accurate. The Pokemon Company has definitely received a ton of information. I don't know, a ton of community reaction
Right.
to this game. And I think that's also a lot of the shortcomings with Pokemon itself. I mean,
hmm
I don't know. Have you played a Pokemon game recently?
No, but my roommates have.
Yeah.
They are huge into Pokemon. I used to be, obviously, but it's
Yeah,
definitely
I used
something
to
that I
play
plan
them
on
on
getting
the
back into for sure.
yeah, I used to play them on like the Game Boy Advance.
Hmm. Yeah, me
I miss
too.
those. I haven't played those in a long time. I haven't played any of the new Pokemon games. Um, I know my sister played Pokemon Go for quite a while. It
Oh yeah,
seems like that's still kind of popular, but they
it
also kind of
is.
like they kind of jumped the gun on it. Like what attracted a lot of people to Pokemon Go was the outdoor activity part of it, right? Like the going outside and catching Pokemon. It looks like the game's kind of gotten away from that a little bit.
Hmm.
I don't play it, so I can't speak to it exactly, but that's kind of where I see that right now. I see that the Pokemon Company is getting press about a game that's unequivocally successful. And not only that, but the game was developed by like 15, 20 people.
Hmm.
Like we're talking about Microsoft laying off 2,000 people when we have a game that's like actually being played by millions of people, being made by like 15 people. Right? And this game has been in development for 3 years. Like
Yeah.
it's not even full release yet. I'm pretty sure that it's in like beta testing right now or early
Hmm.
access. So it's not even like the full game or like, but it's still topping Steam charts. The most consecutive concurrent players, which means I think that they've reached 1.5 million players on the platform at a given time. Like
Yeah, it
what?
looks like it wasn't fully released. It's just an early access
Yeah, it's just an
release
early
on
access.
January
Not only
19th.
that, but it's $26.
Really? Games don't
Yeah,
usually release for that cheap. That's insane.
yeah. So let's just put some numbers on it. So $26 times 1.5 million.
Let's do some
I mean,
math here.
we can do the math on that. That's $40 million this game made on pre-early access.
That's good.
Yeah, it's wild. It looks like the game developers are excited about the community. The community is excited about the game developers.
Yes.
They've released a new update this week that addressed a lot of issues. It obviously caused a lot of bugs too. I mean, that's just kind of how the gaming
Of
scene
course,
goes.
especially
But
for early access.
yeah, but it's kind of it's kind of wild. We know that there's probably going to be nothing that comes out of this investigation for Pokemon. Pokemon's going to have absolutely no recourse for it.
Hmm.
Um, it's definitely, yeah. I mean, I don't think Palworld's done anything wrong here. I know that the game's been announced. It's been in the news, and it has support from the community. But that support has kind of been like a little bit of a darker side because now
Hmm.
modders have actually been making Pokemon assets for this game through modding. So Palworld definitely has
Wait,
to
you
take
said
those down.
modders have
They've
been
actually
making
done
Pokemon
it.
accessible?
No, like they've made mods to replace the characters and assets with Pokemon assets.
Gotcha.
Obviously not officially sanctioned by Palworld. Palworld has um re- removed access for any of those people infringing on Pokemon's intellectual property. The developer claims the game has undergone legal reviews and avoids
Yes,
any direct Pokemon references.
exactly.
Um, but like, I mean, for okay, like Pikachu's like a mouse that
Right.
has electricity. Like that's that can't be that unique, right? Like if
Right.
it's exactly a character of Pikachu, but like if you had a rat that's like green and like
Hmm.
shoots acid or something, like that's
Right.
not you can't Pokemon can't do anything about that.
Exactly.
So yeah, I mean that's yeah, I definitely want to get in on the Pal World stuff, but
Me
it
too.
does seem like it doesn't require, it's just good, right? Like you want to spend time on playing it.
Exactly. Seems like a lot of people are invested. I mean, the last time I saw this much buzz about a video game was probably Baldur's Gate 3,
Yeah.
a couple of months back. So it seems like it's definitely taking
And
off. And
that's even further into the point that like these developers, like the games that are good that are receiving recognition right now are games that the developers spent time on. They're not super highly monetized. I mean, I don't even think Palworld's monetized. Like, there's not a marketplace in it. You can't like buy and trade Pokemon or Pals or whatever. And like they're wildly successful. As compared to like most of the games that are still wildly successful but highly monetized, and they're just predatory.
So it
Like
looks
Diablo,
like,
for example. Diablo is highly predatory.
in what
And
sense? Explain that a little
yeah,
bit more if you don't mind.
what do you mean?
No, I was saying, in what sense is it predatory? Like, what are some of the things that you're
Oh,
referring to?
we can probably link a couple of videos and some content about this, but
Okay,
the way that the
cool.
marketplace works is like if you don't purchase stuff, you can't progress. And like
Gotcha.
there are specific in there are specific mechanisms in Diablo 4 and other pay to win monetizable games
Mm-hmm.
where um you, things you can't purchase things unless you spend enough money. Like there's just things that don't show up in the marketplace. There's things that just don't happen unless you spend enough money. Um,
Mm.
and it's like this kind of gotcha mechanic that requires you to spend so much to get this, and then this requires you more money to spend, and like it's just like it's predatory, right? Like the whole kind of skins game is essentially gambling, and it's completely unregulated.
I do want to read something from the article.
Yeah,
Because
go ahead.
even though, like, so the Pokemon Company, it looks like they haven't officially named Palworld as the game that they're investigating. But it looks like, while the company didn't explicitly name Palworld, it is said it's going to investigate a game released in January 2024, and it will take appropriate measures to address any acts that infringe on intellectual property rights related to Pokemon. It is clearly stated that it has not granted any permission for the use of Pokemon intellectual property or assets in that game. So it's interesting that they didn't explicitly state this, but we kind of know who they are referring to. So it looks like, as IGN notes, Pocket Pair previously said that its game is more like Ark Survival Evolved and Vanaheim than Pokemon. In an interview with Automation, the company's CEO, Takura Mizubi, said Palworld cleared legal reviews and that there has been no action taken against it by other companies, even though those companies, I guess, have a larger connection to the game than the Pokemon Company. So I believe you stated that earlier about clear legal reviews, but I just wanted to reiterate, or I just wanted to go further
Yeah,
into the fact that it relates more so to other games than Pokemon, and still no legal action is being taken. Um,
yeah, and I think a large part of this too is the community.
yeah,
Like, I don't think Power World. I mean, I'm not an investigative journalist. I'm not going to go through all steps to figure this
right,
out. But
right,
I don't see anything about Power World that's like, hey, we're using Pokemon stuff, or like, hey, we are Pokemon with guns, or like this.
right,
The community says that. Power World made a game. They made it with a bunch of cute little characters that you can capture and like maybe
which is common,
enslave and like work in mines and like do
right.
that kind of stuff. And you can even capture other humans too, and like little Pokeballs, but they're not Pokeballs, they're Pow Balls.
That's like saying
Uh,
that Digimon is a ripoff of Pokemon. Like, you can't do that, you
yeah,
know? I
right.
mean,
Um, yeah, and then well, that'd be like saying somebody's like, oh, Digimon's just like a better Pokemon game. Like,
right.
well,
And those came out around the same
that's
time.
not what Digimon said. Like Digimon
Right.
said, like this is a cool game that people like. So I don't think Pokemon has any recourse here. I think that they had to release a statement because of all the media coverage. Right?
I
Like
think so too. I
there's
think
just
they
no way
just
that
had
they
to get
could not.
involved.
Like,
Right.
and I think they're probably getting tired of like, why does Pokemon have guns? Why does this game, you
Right.
know?
Let's
But if
go
you
ahead and
look
get
at the
ahead of
marketing
this.
material for Palworld, like there's nothing about Pokemon in
Right.
Palworld. Like,
Yeah, no, they definitely wanted to get ahead of this. That way, I guess it didn't spin out of control, but I don't think it's going to go anywhere. I think it's going to be perfectly okay, and I don't think anything's going to become of it. So
shoot,
it's
it's
definitely
already made
interesting.
buco dollar, buco dollar.
But hey, at least there's a game out there that people are loving, and at least there's a game out there that keeps video games in the news.
Well, see
So,
this. I'm actually going to kind of loop this back to our first. topic, right? So we have these cable companies that are producing, not cable companies, right? Then you have the Netflix and everybody that's producing content. But they're also trying to be like the hosting and like the distribution platforms. When we take that and compare that kind of to the gaming world, we have Steam, right? And like there's a bunch of other competitors like Epic Games Launcher, Microsoft Game Pass. I don't think PlayStation offers anything to do anything outside of PlayStation, but they do offer like subscriptions for PlayStation members on PlayStation devices. Nintendo Switch has their own thing. But like I just see the value in Steam so much more clearly when we have games like Palworld that are just able to come out of nowhere, essentially, and like be amazing, just be absolutely runaway hits. And I think that's because of the openness of Steam's platform. Whereas when we compare that to like Disney Plus or Netflix, like it's a very closed platform. Like not just anybody can say, "Hey, look, I made a movie. Let's go upload it to Netflix." Like that's just it creates such a
That would
barrier
be cool though if
for,
Netflix did enough supporting that.
right? Like, man, I see the value in the Steam platform so much more clearly whenever games like Baldur's Gate 3 release on Steam or but they also have their own distribution. Like they don't have to be released on Steam to be accessible.
Right.
But hey, a game released on Steam is going to sell 7 million copies in like the first few weeks.
That's crazy. That's insane.
Yeah.
And it's good. You know, going back
there are 57,000 reviews for this game in our language out of 117 total reviews.
That's awesome.
And it is overwhelmingly positive.
Yes.
Overwhelmingly positive. Exactly. That is wow.
It's a good
the most recommended comment is don't get sued, please.
Don't crush our dreams.
Yeah.
Speaking of Pokemon Go, I know that you mentioned earlier. I know, like, I didn't know that Pokemon Go was still a thing, right? But came home the other night, a couple of weeks ago. My roommate said that they had been doing Pokemon. I think that's where they are right now, actually, playing Pokemon Go in Atlanta. So, like, it's still big. That came out what, like 6-7 years ago, which is cool. Very cool.
Oh yeah, mobile games are definitely in their own right now. I mean, I play that Homeworld mobile game. That's great. I like where mobile gaming is going, but there's still a lot of barriers. Mainly device performance and battery life. But the thing I probably hate most, I don't know, it's kind of a love-hate relationship. I love having a phone that's capable of playing a game that I like, but I also hate having to use my phone to play games. Like my phone does other things. It's like receive calls, and if I'm in a game, like I don't want to fucking do anything. I don't want to take a call. I don't want to answer text messages. I don't want to answer team messages. Like, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, completely understandable. Hey, let's move over.
I can't play those mobile games anywhere else. Like, I have to use a laptop with an emulator, or I can't use my Steam Deck to do it. Like, you know.
Hey, so do you want to talk about our business success?
Yeah, let's go ahead.
What's been going on in Vertical Bar Media as of stuff. Yeah, let's do it. So we recently updated our website and we now have a new feature. I'll let you sort of explain the website since you've mostly been involved in it, and then I'll go over that we can now feature articles.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, verticalbarmedia.com. It's actually been up for a while. We just haven't done too much with it. But I recently just allowed Marcus into the organization as more than just a guest contributor. So now you actually have access to Teams and Office 365.
Which I love.
And with that, I've also added the Vertical Bar Media to our GoDaddy account, so that allows access to be able to start integrating all of our social experiences into our website a lot better. So part of the first thing that we did here is going to be a blog. So you've actually uploaded one now. Have you released it?
Yes. Microsoft now has a standalone Copilot app on Android and iOS, and that is the first article that we have officially published on verticalbarmedia.com. We have a publication on medium.com, which is for writers and bloggers, and it'll be good to sort of transition over to Vertical Bar Media as the main source for all of our tech news. Now, we do report on technology, video games, aviation, photography, videography, and 3D printing. So it's going to be where we have our sort of text-based version of most of the things that we talk about on our podcast, and also, text-based versions and explanations of the YouTube channel that we have on YouTube as Vertical Bar Media. So we will be posting daily in the coming weeks, and it'll be nice to sort of officially be competitors of places like TheVerge, Engadget, and other news sites. It's nice. This is what my passion is, and I like that we're going to sort of have a sort of dual role in this space. We're going to have videos and written content, and it's just very exciting. I like that we're getting this moving. So it's awesome. We'll
Yeah,
cut that out
it's
or
so
not.
it's to me it's interesting at how much there is to actually do, right? So not only is
Yes.
there your part where you have to write the
Hmm.
articles that we post on the blog, but we also have to develop the platform, develop the website, have the infrastructure to be able to post things. And there's just so much to do.
There is.
I could literally spend all day doing stuff on this, like, because this is part of the website plan going forward is to start integrating commerce and appointments in our socials.
Hmm.
So the marketing, the first part of that was doing the blogs, make sure that we get that kind of stuff. And once we kind of start developing this a little bit of a funnel, we'll start doing some email marketing and pulling some digital ads to be able to drive traffic to our website. And then once we kind of start getting some stuff there, we need to start developing our commerce store, product listings. We need to be able to develop like a public calendar that people can do like bookings with.
Hmm.
We need to automate as much of that as possible so that people, if they need a service that we offer, they can come see what we offer and then they can take the action on it
Yes,
as
which will be
easily and without barriers, essentially.
one-stop shop.
Yeah. What do you think? What's going to be our first product for sale?
I don't know. I know we're going to do some giveaways for tech in order to promote our brand. But as far as
Oh
our
yeah,
our
those are
first
going to be
products for
exciting.
sale, we're going to be teaching people how to use software, hopefully. So
Yeah.
people will be,
Well,
be able
yeah,
to
that's a whole other thing that we need to develop too. Like we got the
exactly. This is
Patreon.
guides and how-tos.
Yeah, guides and how-tos. So Patreon offers, and that's kind of the other thing here that we have with where we need to develop the commerce part of our website is because we can actually list digital products that people can buy on our website and download directly from our website. So yeah, there's definitely a lot to explore with that, both physical and digital products.
And it's going to be exciting too. I just recently started a job at Mercedes-Benz. So I'm officially in their corporate office in Atlanta, Georgia, which is exciting. And I know that a lot of my team members lately, they don't know about the software that we're using. Some people are struggling, and I'm glad that I can be there as a resource to help them. So not only,
Oh, yeah.
in the workplace, but I'm going to be glad to be a resource for people who are all over the world who, have these tools and resources, but don't really know how to effectively use them. So it's going to be exciting for us to get involved in that. I know we recently, I know you've been involved in a website called Varsity Tutors, and we're going to be on that as well. Probably going to be one of our primary sources, and there'll be links to our website as well, where we will be able to assist people with software, hardware products. When we have reviews on hardware like cameras, smartphones, laptops, computers, drones, we're going to be able to sort of extend the information knowledge that we have in our reviews, not only so that people purchase these products, but so that they can use them in certain ways. I like having tablets, phones. I have multiple laptops that I bring with me every day, and I like using this stuff at work, on the train, coffee shops, out in the real world. And I sort of pretend I'm other people to see how I can describe the most user-friendly approach to using these products for certain different types of peoples. And not only that, but certain people who are in certain positions at work, who have different lifestyles and things like that. There's a different way to use an
Yeah,
8-inch
and
tablet versus a 10-inch tablet versus a 5-inch
yeah,
phone
and
versus a
it's kind of
14-inch tablet.
it's really interesting too because like me and you maybe take it a little bit for granted on how well we understand technology. And
Right.
I don't have any articles to post on this, but a lot of the data shows that Gen Z and newer generations actually have less understanding of technology than
But more access,
than we do.
which is
Um,
insane. We're the bridge.
yeah, yeah, because it's interesting because a lot of the stuff is just apps, right? And it's just like you go to the store and you download the app. Nobody knows what a .exe is.
I know, right?
Like, what is an executable file? Like, oh, let me download this executable file and put it on my computer. Wait, no, don't do that.
Viruses. Use the
Like,
Microsoft Store.
yeah. And then, I mean, even, the Mac community, it's all apps. Like,
It
nobody knows
is.
how to do anything with a Mac. Like, how do you turn, on this feature? So one of the projects that we're going to start working on is Apple Anonymous. It's going to
Mhm.
be a help self-helps kind of style content for Mac users. Um, and like doing research on this is like kind of eye-opening on how like people go to Apple repair stores to figure out how to find their file folders. Like, hey,
Yes.
like how do I find out like what's my hard
I used
drive?
to
Like
work
where
for
do I find
Apple.
my hard drive in my computer? I'm like, what? Like
Dude, I used to work for Apple, and these people were coming. I used to work at the retail store in Dunwoody, Georgia, close to Sandy Springs. But I used to work there, and people came in for very simple things.
yeah. And it's like, I charge like $50 an hour to fix this, but like this is gonna literally take like 13 seconds for me to tell you how to
A
turn on
couple
Time
of
Machine.
seconds to tell you how to go into settings, right?
Yeah.
But settings being used in operating systems lately have become overcomplicated. They're easy for me because I know how to utilize search, and they're probably easy for you too. But toggling things on and off is just, especially in Windows, it's an endless amount of
Yeah, I think
of
probably the biggest
freedom.
struggle with Windows is like for me and you, we remember the old command
Right,
prompt system,
right,
right?
and
Like
control
the
panel.
old control panel system, which you can still access by
You
right-clicking on the Windows icon and going
right
to see if I can computer management. So those
or
kinds of
Windows
things,
X
yeah,
is the
Windows
shortcut.
X.
There you go. Brings you right
Actually,
up.
I have a macro on my desktop that's Windows XUU, which is the command to essentially, or Windows SU, Windows US, and that's how you put your computer to sleep with keyboard shortcuts.
Cool. See,
Yeah.
I always
Don't
do
do that
Windows
because your
X
computer will
and then
literally just go to sleep right now.
so I always do Windows X, and then I will sort of use the up arrow, and then I'll use the right arrow to go over
Uh,
to sleep or restart. But that's interesting. So wait,
well,
this is
one
already
of the
built in?
things, yeah, so one of the things that you'll see is if you hit Windows X on your keyboard, right,
Hmm.
it'll pop up and you'll see that there's a letter highlighted under each one of those things. If you press that letter, it'll follow you through that prompt. So press Windows X, you press U, and that's shut down and sign out, and then it'll give you a couple other options. If you press I, it signs you out. If you press S, it goes to sleep. If you press U, it's shut down. If you press R, it restarts. Did you know there's actually a Windows LinkedIn shortcut? Control Shift Alt. Control Shift Alt Wind L. Wow, all the keys.
Yeah, it works. That actually works. I had no idea. That's so cool.
There's a
There's a
word.
link.
There's a LinkedIn, Word, PowerPoint, and Excel. It's Control Shift Alt Windows L W X P and O.
Dude, that's so awesome. I like that. I'm gonna have to
It's
use that,
literally just all
especially
the
for
keys in the
LinkedIn.
corner and like
Yeah,
W.
that's cool. That's
Oh
so
wow,
cool.
that's super fast.
Yeah, it pulls
Wow,
it right
that's
up.
actually a
I
lot
love it.
faster than running. You know, I usually do Windows R Windward.
Windward? What does
Yeah,
that do?
Windward.
Is that for
If you type in Windward and run, it opens Word.
really?
Yeah,
Windward. Oh, Windward. Okay, gotcha.
yeah,
Oh, I
Windward
didn't know that.
and run. Yeah,
Dude,
so that's I usually
I
use
love it.
Windows Run Calc,
Mm-hmm.
CALC. That's open
Try
up your
that.
calculator. But
Bam. Nice.
I think there's other ones that allow you to do that. But I'm actually excited they're gonna bring a new key to the keyboard. They're bringing the Copilot key.
What's up?
I said they're bringing the Copilot key to the keyboard. We'll see how that goes.
Wait, the physical keyboard?
Yeah,
They are
all new Microsoft keyboards are gonna have their second Windows key be the Copilot key.
the Copilot key. Dude, that's awesome. I
Yeah,
love it.
it's the
Maybe
first
they'll
new
launch
key
it.
added to a keyboard since I can't remember what the last one was.
That's gonna be super awesome. See, my keyboard, I'm on a laptop. My keyboard doesn't have an extra Windows key, but I'm sure they'll find a way to put it somewhere.
Yeah, I think that's all new laptops.
Hell yeah. I wonder if it'll replace the regular. I think the start menu is going to be replaced by Copilot.
You think so?
Yeah, I think in Windows 12 they're going to replace the start button with. So maybe it's going to be the start button that gets replaced, and maybe the shortcuts will still work. But I do think the start menu is going to be replaced by Copilot for sure. I think
Yeah,
officially it's going to be that way.
I know.
Because
Yeah,
I thought
I don't know, understand anything about operating system design anymore. Like
Mhm.
it doesn't make sense to me anymore. That's probably because it's trying to make sense to people who use apps all the time and like don't know how to use a computer.
Exactly, it is. As you can see, the start menu was completely simplified, and it basically, in Edge you can add websites as apps. In Chrome you can add them as apps too. So Microsoft for Windows 11 definitely went in the app direction. But hey, let's go ahead and round this up. It's been a beautiful episode. I'll let you take the lead.
All right, well, that's all the time we have for today on Vertical Bar Podcast. As always, it's been a blast exploring technology with all of you.
Indeed, it has, Jared. And remember, folks, if you want to learn more about the topics we've discussed, check out the description with links to our socials. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the podcast for more tech adventures.
Absolutely, Marcus. We'd love to hear from you. Reach out with your questions, ideas, or just to say hi. We're on all social media platforms as Vertical Bar Media.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and remember the only constant in technology is change.
Whoop, whoop.
Doot doot.